Ask anybody who was alive and remembers the era of JFK, that brief time period of 1,000 days from 61 to 63, and ask them, name a couple of adjectives to describe JFK. And some words are going to come back as youth, intelligence, energy, wit, charm, charisma. All of them apply. He is a young man. He's 43 when he's elected president of the United States. Right? He's the only one that's younger is Teddy Roosevelt. And remember, he became president because of an assassination. So anybody who was around back then and saw him and watched him, that's these adjectives that I've talked about, they really apply. Just watch a press conference with him in front of the press. He's a man that's comfortable with his own skin. He's one of those guys that Americans are going to have a soft spot for, mainly because of the fact that he's cut down in the prime of his life. He's a man that's never going to age. He's like Peter Pan in that way. He never grows up, right? We see the presidents, our former presidents, and we see them age and become old men, right? And JFK, we're never going to have that. Remember, he's he's basically, I think he's born around 1917, so he's just, he would have been just over 100 now. So, and if we see, if the pattern of presidential health applied to him, it would be very likely that he would have been alive maybe as late as 15 years ago, right? So, but not dead over 50 years, right? So let's talk about his presidency. What did he want to do? Well, first of all, his program was called the New Frontier. We've had the New Deal, the Square Deal, the Fair Deal. We had all this other stuff, right? But we have now the New Frontier. He coins it at the nomination convention in 1960 in Los Angeles. And in his acceptance speech, he talks about his administration. And this is a little bit of a brief that he says, the keynotes. We stand at the edge of a new frontier. The frontier of unfulfilled hopes and dreams. It will deal with unsolved problems of peace and war, unconquered pockets of ignorance and prejudice, unanswered questions of poverty and surplus. So what is he going to be doing? Well, first of all, he's going to try to boost the economy, right? For example, it's tax cuts. He does pass tax cuts or at least his successor does, in order to stimulate the economy. He provides international aid to third world countries in order to prop them up so they're not so susceptible to the Cold War, particularly the communist infiltration. It's under Kennedy that the third world gets involved in the Cold War. So it's a new arena of competition. He's going to boost for national defense and the space program, each of which he criticized over the Eisenhower years because in the United States seem to lag behind. We certainly lagged behind in the space program, but national defense, not so much. He's going to push through civil rights. He's going to push for it, at least. And though he does not get anything done in terms of legislation, I think it's basically his legacy, the fact that he's assassinated, that really helps push through that kind of legislation. And he also manages to increase the minimum wage from $1 to $1.25. On the international scale, he accomplishes two major things. For example, the Peace Corps, which sends teachers to poorer nations to increase educational levels and bolster their economies. Another thing is going to be the Alliance for Progress, in which he provides health and education in Latin America. He's also going to build up on ground forces, but he's also not going to be stupid. He's going to actually he's going to sign the Partial Test Ban Treaty with the Soviet Union. We'll talk a little bit that later. But nevertheless, some of the major things that he's going to push for, I have described, particularly the space program. It's perhaps one of his most famous speeches. We have a few. His Berlin speech, of course, his inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do for you, right? But one of his other most famous speeches is the State of the Union, where he challenges the United States to go ahead and go to the moon. Shoot for the moon. Let's put a man on the moon and bring him back. Ideally before the 1960s were out. He never lives to see it being realized, but it's his inspiration. It's his call for it that will bring the United States all the way to the moon and literally back.